Chili dogs! You are too slow! Gotta go fast! Hey, step it up! Hello friends! And you know, cannot lie, today's review is obviously Sonic. Sonic was simply created for one thing, dethroning Mario as the most iconic character from games. You know, in the turn between the 80s and the 90s, Nintendo was the king of gaming. Why? Because the company basically restored the gaming industry from a crash in 1984, and Mario was the flagship of that restructuring of the industry. So Nintendo was there with a huge popularity, and Sega came and said, we're gonna take on them directly. And Sonic was created with a concept of speed because they were trying to market Sonic as fast while saying that Mario was slow, you know? And this was also to try to say that Sega's console, the Genesis in North America and Mega Drive in the rest of the world, was better than the SNES, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. They were saying that Genesis was faster in processing, and thus their character was faster as well. But was Sonic really able to run that fast? Well, as I'll talk about a little later, actually, he could, but not always. The levels could only be played fast if you really memorized them. Well, but before I get deeper into it, let me say, Sonic was released in 1991. It was released in a very short period of time in Japan and North America. When it was released in Japan, the Super Famicom, the Japanese version of the SNES, was already out there. So Super Mario World was already there. In North America, the Super Mario World was released a few months after Sonic, okay? So, this is important because the Sega of Japan and Sega of America had different approaches to this competition. Sonic tells a simple story. The mad scientist, Dr. Robotnik, I think he was called Robotnik both in Japan and America at that time. Eggman, as I see it, is a descendant of Robotnik. You know, I get confused, okay? I always called him Robotnik. He's gonna be Robotnik for today, okay? He's trying to mechanize everything in the world, transforming animals into robots, war machines. And Sonic is there to save everyone and break the machines apart. Very simple. Man destroying nature, nature fighting back. The controls are also simple. Use the directional inputs to move sideways, to look up, and to crouch, and while you are crouching the camera sometimes fades down. And all the other buttons in the controller, except the start of course, jump. That's it, you move and jump. While you are running or while you are in a slope, if you crouch, Sonic will begin to roll. You attack your enemies by jumping on them or by rolling on them. I must say that the lack of a spin dash, a mechanic that was only introduced in Sonic 2, is very noticeable in this game because there are many situations where I wanted to do it and I just couldn't. Okay, now, Sonic is said to be fast. But is that true? Yes, he can achieve very high speeds. He can really run faster than Mario. But the level designs of all the stages in Sonic makes it that you will only be able to really run at Sonic's top speed if you are very good at remembering where the obstacles are and avoiding them. Because the levels always place something that will stop you from running directly towards the goal in various spots. So you have to know exactly when you have to jump through that obstacle, when you have to crouch and spin through another one, and when you must time your jumps not to fall from a platform, this is the only way for you to really run through the levels, or else you will have to keep stopping every time to evaluate your situation, and then you're going to move the safest way possible. That way the gameplay is really only fast when you're really good at the game. I think this is what brings the replay factor of the game up to the front as well, because at that time games didn't have much memory space, so they had to make it difficult and really reward player dedication, so that the player would keep playing that short game for a long time. That's how they did it. Sonic the Hedgehog has 7 worlds. Each world has 3 levels, and the last of those 3 levels always has a boss for you to fight. The first world is Green Hill Zone, second one is Marble Zone. The first world has great music, and it's a world that gives you relatively a lot of freedom to run around and explore without being too punished. Now, the second world is a great contrast. It has that tedious, repetitive music, and its levels are all a tight environment that really punishes you for running. Really, you can fall in lava, you can get stabbed by surprise spikes, or worse. I don't like the second world. It's a labyrinth. It's not a straight line to the goal. And this contrast between the freedom of the first world and the limits in the second world are somewhat balanced in different measures during the following worlds. Third world, Spring Yard Zone. I must also say that besides the second world, I hate the fourth one, Labyrinth Zone, because it has water, and Sonic does not deal well with water. He runs out of air, and you have to stay around those air bubbles if you want to recover it, and he moves very slowly in the water. It gives me cravings to start running and get out of the water, but I can't, because it's really a labyrinth, and it really entangles you in its traps, and it feels negative. I prefer Green Hill Zone. The fifth is Starlight Zone. The sixth is Scrap Brain Zone. And the final and seventh is the Final Zone. Actually, Final Zone has only one level, which is a boss fight. It doesn't have 3 levels as the other worlds. The first Sonic game is the only main Sonic game that does not have Super Sonic. You can get the Chaos Emeralds though to unlock a better ending. Each of the zones, except the final one, has a Chaos Emerald for you to get. To get each of the 6 Chaos Emeralds, you must pass through the end of a level with 50 or more rings. Then a giant ring will appear, and if you jump on it, you will enter a special stage. In the special stages, you have a different mechanic, that you are a ball and you must jump through rotating walls to try and reach a Chaos Emerald. Doesn't matter if you fail or succeed in those stages, you will be thrown in the next level anyway. It's just so that you can try and achieve a better ending. I don't like those special levels. Between all of the Sonic games, these are very uncomfortable to play, but they're creative, and I'll give them that. And I'm not just saying that because I suck on these levels. No way. Me? Sega wanted to give Mario a rival and to create another gaming icon. Did they achieve that? Most certainly, they surely did. Sonic is remembered to this day. It may not be a rival to Mario anymore, they even starred in games together, but he is certainly a strong icon up to today. The marketing campaign of Sega was that Sonic would appeal to a so-called more mature audience. because Nintendo was viewed as appealing mostly to kids. Nintendo's games were sold as toys. That was their marketing plans. That's how they surpassed the crisis of 1984 of oversaturation in the game industry. So people were seeing games as negative in 1984 and 83, and Nintendo said, we're gonna sell our products as toys, and that's what they did. But toys appealed mostly to kids, and in the turn between the 80s and the 90s, there was already another market for games. Since games were not seen as negative anymore, Sega could come in and say, we're selling another game that is more mature. See, that's why Sonic has that rebel vibe, because the youth of the time had that same vibe. Then I can say that Sega was the first company to bring forth this concept of a contrast between mature and less mature games. That concept kinda existed before, because before the crisis in 1983, we had the arcade games that were mostly marketed, believe it, to adults. Arcade machines used to be in bars. They used to have pictures of hot women in the sides of arcades, even if the game was not necessarily of hot women. They even didn't have graphics for that. And then came the Atari making a mid-ground, the industry crashed, and Nintendo appealed mostly to a younger audience. Sega brought attention to the possibility of having another kind of narrative in games. And even though nowadays companies still market games as more mature and less mature sometimes, we all know that these boundaries are merely marketing tools, because we have both adults and children, or preteens, playing Call of Duty and Battlefield, and both preteens and kids and adults playing Mario and Pokemon. These boundaries are merely a way to market a game. But what is really important is that Sega gave us a Hedgehog to love. And Sega called attention to the fact that there were more possibilities in narrative to games than the ones presented by Nintendo, and diversity in culture can only be seen as a good thing, as long as it's healthy diversity. All things considered, you've gotta go fast, and you must not be too slow. Grab a chilllydog, grab your controller, and blast through Green Hill and onward. Go for it! Don't keep Sonic waiting. So, we are the gaming generation, and we talk about everything gaming from retro to new. If you like memes, if you like gameplay content, you must check our Facebook and YouTube pages. And also you can check out my personal YouTube and Facebook pages, Leo Siren Games, for a lot of gameplay content as well. Check it out and have a blast, because I know you will. Bye bye.